Every single Titan main needs to run this build. I cannot stress this further enough. Every single Titan needs to run this build. Trust me, you're going to love it. This is by far one of the most best builds in episode Heresy because you're going to be producing a boatload of bolt charges with our class ability, and we're also going to be jolting and unleashing tons of electricity with our melee ability, and we're also going to be stunning every single champion in the game. And what's best about this build is that the exotic weapon we're using for this build, you don't really need to use it. You can choose any exotic weapon you like. But as we are going through the video, I'm going to be showing you guys options for you to choose from the exotic. Let's talk about the Striker Arc subclass. For your super, I would recommend going for Thunder Crash because this super hits like a bulldozer for damage. Onto the abilities, your class ability, you're going to need to use Rally Barricade because one, of the base cooldown, and two, if you were to stand behind the barricade, it would make your reload go by extremely fast, and also it would increase your stability and range as well. And last but not least, it would also draw hostile fire if you're behind it. So you're basically going to taunt enemies. And that's our goal for this build because of the exotic armor piece we're using. And to make this build even work for your exotic armor piece, you're going to need to use Thunderclap. It will make you stay in place as you're using this arc melee ability, and the longer you hold it, the more damage you'll inflict on the target. And this will also jolt enemies if you have the exotic armor piece we're using. And it's called Point Contact Cannon Brace. Whenever you defeat a target with your Thunderclap, it would one, restore melee energy, and also targets near you when you use your Thunderclaps suffers a lightning strike that makes them jolted. Also, if you're amplified, it would increase the damage of these lightning strikes. So we are going to be getting amplified in multiple ways for this build with our abilities and with our weapons. And if you want to know how you can apply amplified, you would need to get rapid kills with arc damage. So that would be your abilities or any arc weapon. And also for your arc grenade, you're going to want to put flashbang grenade because this is the only ability for this build that will allow you to stun unstoppable champions if you would like to stun every single champion for this build. And don't worry, we are going to be producing tons of ionic traces, which will equivalent to us getting more ability energy. So we're going to be getting this more often. For the aspect, you're going to want to go for Storm's Keep. This is the new aspect that came out in episode Heresy. All you would have to do is activate your class ability, and whenever you're behind your barricade, you and your allies will gain stacks of bolt charge over time, and your weapons can discharge the maximum amount of stacks of bolt charge. So without this aspect, if you want to activate the lightning strike from bolt charge, you're going to need to use your melee ability or any ability whatsoever. But now, if you have this aspect on, all you would need to do is go behind your barricade, hit an enemy with your weapon if you have maximum stacks of bolt charges, and the lightning strike will appear. If you guys didn't know that whenever you activate the lightning strike, it would also count as an ignition, in such case as like the damage of an ignition. Might as well, we're talking about bolt charges for the exotic weapon. If you would like to benefit for producing more bolt charges, you can go for Thunderlord because they did change it a little bit. Lightning strikes grant a stack of bolt charges. So if you were to deal continuous damage, it will generate lightning strikes. And this will also stun overload champions because it's in the weapon itself. And for the catalyst, you do really need the catalyst because whenever you produce the lightning strikes from the Thunderlord, it would partially reload your magazine. So you're just going to be able to spray it nonstop even longer without you needing to reload. But for me in the gameplay, I chose to go for the Queen Breaker because it did get a catalyst this season and they gave it wee wah wounds. We love wee wah wounds, don't we? And also we're going to tie this to one of the artifacts that would make this thing shoot even longer. And I did use this in contest mode of the new dungeon that just came out, and this thing was pretty badass on third encounter. And also, if you are choosing to use the Queen Breaker for the first column, you need to go for Combat Sight. It's basically like a 3-round burst or this linear. Just put it on, you just do more damage. And also for your third column, go for Quick Draw just to pull it out faster. Pause. All right, back to the aspect. The other aspect you're going to want to put is Knockout because at the time that I'm recording, if you were to play on the Nether, the amount of healing you get for multiple resources is pretty slim to none. So I noticed that Knockout will give you a boatload of healing. So that's why I put it for this build, and also for the exotic armor piece we're going to be using. So whenever you activate Knockout, you can either critically wound a target or break their shields to increase your melee range and damage for a short time. And also if you were to defeat a target with your melee attack, it would make you amplified. And as we are being amplified, it would increase the damage of these lightning strikes. So our main goal is to be amplified to give us big damage. And this also stacks with knockouts, so you're going to be increasing your damage even further. And if you were to defeat a powerful enemy, it would also increase the amount of health you would get. Now let's head to the fragments. The first fragment you're going to want to put is Spark of Ions that ties to our primary weapon and also our abilities. So the first part is our primary weapon, so defeating a jolted target will give us an Ionic Trace. And the second part is tying to any weapon if you are behind a rally barricade or your abilities. So whenever you defeat a target with a bolt charge, it will create an Ionic Trace. And also, if you were to apply jolt on a target, specifically on an overload champion, it would stun them. So the auto rifle we are using for this build is the one you can get from the Vespers hosted dungeon. And on the fourth column, it has jolting feedback. So whenever we deal repeated damage with this weapon, it inflicts jolt. So this is enhanced, so it's going to be at an increased rate. And if you are amplified, jolt is applied faster. And also, to make this build even more powerful when it comes to getting your rally barricade even faster, on the third column, go for strategist. Final blows with this weapon will generate improved class ability energy. And also, if you were to activate your rally barricade, it would briefly improve this weapon's stability. I also forgot to mention about Bright Legacy. Whenever you damage enemies with this weapon, it will generate a small amount of ability energy to the one that's closest to full charge. The amount of energy you get with this is not too much. It's like a point something. I don't know the numbers, but it's pretty small. But hey, you get ability energy just by hitting targets with this weapon. But mainly, we're focusing on class ability energy whenever we get kills from this, and we are going to be getting a lot of kills from this. 1 with bolt charge and 2 with jolting feedback. And also for the weapon mod, if you want to produce another Ionic Trace, go for synergy. Basically, if you get kills with this weapon, it would have a chance to spawn in an Ionic Trace just by doing nothing, just get kills. All right, back to the fragments. The second fragment you're going to want to put is Spark of Discharge. Your arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an Ionic Trace. And also, whenever you collect an Ionic Trace, it will grant you a stack of bolt charge, but sadly, you'll get -10 strength. So if you were to play it right and you were to get lucky, you can basically spawn in 3 Ionic Traces at once by activating this fragment and then Spark of Ions, and last but not least, the Arc Auto Rifle with Synergy. The third fragment will help us produce even more bolt charges whenever we're amplified. So that basically is it. But you'll also get increased reload speed with your melee hits, and also stability, but that part doesn't really matter. So I went with just getting more stacks of bolt charges. So instead of producing 1 at a time, it's going to be producing 2 at a time. So the more stacks we have, the more lightning strikes we're going to be inflicting. And for survivability, on the last fragment, I went with Spark of Resistance. While we are surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage, and you also get +10 strength. What's also cool is that they changed how amplified works as well. Well, a little bit. So whenever you get amplified, it would now give you a +15% increase in damage resist. And that also stacks with resistance. So if you have those 2 at a time, you'll get a 40% damage reduction because Spark of Resistance is 25 and amplified is 15. For your kinetic weapon, I decided to go for a sniper rifle. You can choose any sniper rifle in the game, but I'm really loving the Supremacy because it has, again, way more rounds. Basically what it does is that the more hits you get on a target will refill those amount of hits in your magazine. So basically you shoot more longer without you needing to reload, as long as you get hits. And on the fourth column, I went with Kinetic Tremors, which 1 staggers the enemy and 2 just emits a kinetic shockwave that damages nearby targets. But it's really powerful. And for the weapon mod, I went with Ballistic just to increase my range and stability. And on the origin trait, this weapon would gain bonus stability and reload if you were to activate your grenade. Okay, let's head to the artifacts. So what you're seeing here is a linear fusion Queen Breaker artifact setup. So I was using Particle Reconstruction. That's like a debuff with increase in damage. It's like 20-something%. I think it's 27. I don't know the number, but it's around that range. And also go for Defibrillating Blast, which whenever you stun a champion, it would give you the maximum of bolt charges, and also it would heal you and jolt combatants around that target. But if you are using the Thunderlord, you can use this one called Heavy Ordnance Regeneration, which will give you increased grenade and melee regeneration. All you would have to do is just hit targets with your machine gun, and then you get that. And for the last one, you can choose between Defibrillating Blast, again, bolt charge if you want to maximize your bolt charge gains, and the next one is Elemental Supercharger if you want to tie it to your super, because we are using Thunder Crash. And but for me, I prefer going for this one, but again, you can choose what you like. And the main artifact mods you want to use for this build is this one, Dielectric. Defeating arc debuff targets grants a bolt charge. That could be jolt and blind. So blinding with our grenade and jolting with our auto rifle. The next one is flash over. When you gain maximum bolt charge, you also become amplified, and lightning bolts deal more damage. So that's why we're seeing those big numbers on the lightning strikes. Let's talk about the stats for the build. Your main priority is of course resilience, because it would reduce your class ability cooldown. So by its default is 38 seconds. And as what you're seeing here, instead of it being 38 seconds, it brought it down all the way to 22 seconds. So you're going to want to get tier 10 resilience. And lastly, it would also give you a 30% damage reduction, which also stacks with amplified and spark of resistance. And your second priority is to go for recovery, just to give you a little bit more survivability when it comes to like end game content, such as expert nether and other stuff as well. On the helmet, I went with hands-on just to give me more super energy, because we are using our Thunderclap mostly for this build. And for my second mod, I went for heavy ammo finder for my Queenbreaker or Thunderlord if you are using any of the two. And to produce more orbs of power, harmonic siphon. You got to get 2 or more kills to produce that orb of power for your arc auto rifle, and either again Queenbreaker or Thunderlord, but mainly our auto rifle. On the gauntlets, I went with heavy handed, which is a 10-second cooldown if you were to get a kill with your powered melee. And as we get a hit with our powered melee, it would also reduce our rally barricade, and also if we hit a target with our grenade, it would reduce our class ability, which is our rally barricade. And for the chest armor, I went with mods that would give us more damage resist when we're close to targets, such as melee damage resistance, that whenever we're in point blank range, it would reduce incoming damage, and also concussive dampener reduces incoming area of effect from combatants. For example, like you're going to an ogre and he would slam down on you, you would deal less damage from that. And on the last armor mod, I went with harmonic resistance because it's cheap and it ties to your super, so it's arc resist. On the leg armor, I decided to go for recuperation for more survivability. Whenever we pick up an orb of power, it would give us healing. And for the next one, for elemental charge, if you pick up an ionic trace, you would have a chance to give you an armor charge, which ties to arc weapon surge, which will increase your arc weapon damage. As you have an armor charge, it will decay over time. So I noticed that we are producing a bunch of ionic traces, so I wanted to keep more of an uptime for our arc weapon damage. But if you don't really care about that, you can change elemental charge for another arc weapon surge, because we already are producing orbs of power with our arc weapons and also our melee ability. But again, I went with elemental charge just for more of an uptime for my arc damage. On the Titan mark, I went with Reaper because we are using our barricade a lot. So whenever we activate it and we get a kill afterwards, it would spawn in an orb of power. And as we activate our barricade, it would automatically collect nearby orbs of power around us. So we don't have to worry about running to them. They just get automatically collected. And to increase our weapon damage even further, I went with time dilation. So instead of it being 10 seconds for the armor charge decay, it is now going to be 15 seconds. If you guys are curious about my drip, here's what I was using. I'll just go around in circles, but yeah, it's like basically one armor set. I know a lot of people in the drip community don't really like that, but I don't care. I like it. I'm gonna put it. It's like a Scorn themed because of the gauntlet, even though I don't have it, but it looks pretty cool. So hope you guys like it or use it. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. If you guys did, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe button, because we're so close to hitting 7,000 subscribers. That is pretty gnarly and insane. Thank you, and much love to all of you that stuck around or new watching my build. So thank you. And I hope these builds helped you through any activity you're playing. If you guys would like to check out the builds for yourself, the dim loadout link will be in the description if you're interested. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, evening, or afternoon. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.